What's happening, guys, and welcome back to Sliced. Black History Month in the UK is really kind of weird. Every single year we're taught the same thing about how African Americans were enslaved, and William Wilberforce came along and sorted the whole problem out. Simple as that.
That can instantly patch, bond, seal, and repair.
And really it kind of belittles the whole situation, and it kind of gives that savior complex when really the freedom of slaves was largely due to the resistance and the constant momentum from the African Americans themselves. You're probably wondering, what on earth does this have to do with food? And I think it's really interesting because food really creates that foundation of culture. And so when you look into the history of food within the African American community, you really start to see just how much they did themselves in order to build their community and sort of rebuild that culture that they lost. Cornbread is a really interesting thing. Now in America, the most widely available staple is corn. So almost every single dish that they would have had to eat had to be with corn. And it's really interesting when you look into the sort of excerpts of slave diaries, and they would mention how Native Americans taught them how to use things like corn flour in order to make different things, such as cornbread. And so one of the earliest forms of cornbread would be a very simple dough made from corn flour, wrapped in collard greens and baked in ashes so that it would be fully cooked. So with that in mind, I hope you make today's recipe, but I also hope it allows you to reflect just how truly resilient the African Americans were in building their community and their culture. I'm using more of a modern sort of adaptation of cornbread, but it's something really simple, something that all of you will be able to make regardless of any equipment that you've got at home. It's super simple, you're gonna love it. So we're gonna start off by preheating our oven to 200 degrees. This is around gas mark 6. And in a bowl, we're going to combine 150 grams of fine cornmeal. It's also referred to as semolina, along with 100 grams of plain flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and half a teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda. Along with a pinch of salt, we're going to mix that all together so it's nicely combined. And in a separate bowl or a pan, we're going to melt 115 grams of butter, adding in 2 tablespoons of honey and 70 grams of brown sugar. Light or dark, it doesn't really matter. Once that's all mixed, we're going to crack 1 large egg into this. And once that's mixed together, we're going to add in 240 mils of buttermilk. The buttermilk's going to make that dough really nice and moist so that when you cook it, it's not going to be that sort of dry consistency that you sometimes associate with semolina or corn flour. So yeah, once you've done all that, we're going to fold in our wet stuff into our dry stuff, making sure everything is nice and mixed. And as an optional extra, you can allow this to rest for about 30 minutes to allow that flour to really absorb all the moisture. It's going to allow it to be a moister cornbread. What you're going to do is, if you have one, take a cast iron pan, and we're going to add in about 50 grams of butter to this, melting it on the stove, allowing it to sizzle a little bit, adding in about, a tablespoon of vegetable oil just to stop things from burning, mixing it all together, making sure you brush it around the edges, and we're just going to pour our cornbread mixture into that heated butter and oil mix. This is going to really allow that crust to form around it. We're going to spread that out real nice, and we're going to put this in the oven, baking it for around 30 minutes or until it's golden brown all over. And when you put in a toothpick, it returns nice and clean. And just cutting out a wedge of this, looking at that cross section, it's going to make you want to say, Lord have mercy. Thank you guys for watching. I'm going to leave a link below on how you can support black owned food businesses. If you'd like to see more of me, check me out at slice_YT on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok and everything. And I'll see you next time. Bye.